There are many stories about werewolves. During the Middle Ages and early modern period, suspected werewolves were put on trial like witches, and often tortured into confessing that they had received their wolfskin and special ointments from Satan. In this list we count down 5 alleged cases of werewolves. At some point during the early 1570s or late 1560s, Garnier lived outside of Dole as a hermit and was eventually married. In the isolated area he was not used to providing for more people than himself. After a while, children from the town began disappearing, or worse, being discovered mutilated and dissected. The law authorities and officials believed it was a werewolf, and issued an edict encouraging the local citizens to hunt the werewolf. A group of men from a town near Dole discovered what they thought was a werewolf hunched over a child's body. As they got closer, they realised it was the hermit Garnier and captured him. At his trial, Garnier confessed and told the court that a ghost or demon visited him, and gave him an ointment so that he would be able to transform into a wolf, making it easier to hunt. Garnier then told the court of his murders. He killed 2 girls and 2 boys, eating their flesh where they fell after strangling them, and in some instances bringing home pieces of them for his wife. Despite Garnier's attempt to shift the blame to the devil and repent by confessing his interaction with a demon, it was either an attempt to gain favour or the man was insane. He was found guilty of lycanthropy and witchcraft. The court sentenced him to be burned at the stake. Claudia Gaylord is also known as the Werewolf of Burgundy, but she was more likely one of the victims of the werewolf hysteria and witch trials during the 15th century. Between the year 1529 and 1630, it was documented that at least 300,000 individuals suspected of practicing witchcraft and have the ability to transform into a werewolf were executed in France alone. Those people accused had to suffer extreme and inhumane torture before they finally admitted to the accusations. Claudia Gaylord was a young lady who was accused by her friends, family and neighbours that she was a werewolf. She was examined by the Inquisitor Henry Bouguet, known as one of those inquisitors that brought many of the alleged witches to their death. Henry believes that the demons taught the witches the knowledge to transform into a werewolf. That is why most werewolves suffer the same fate as the witches. Henry went to Gaillard's house to gather more evidence. One of the neighbours testified that he witnessed the transformation of Gaillard to a werewolf under a bush. The testimony of the neighbours became the basis of Henry to skip the trial and proceed in torturing Gaillard. During her torture, it was claimed that Gaillard never showed a sign of pain, and did not even cry, a sign that is telling that she was indeed a witch. She was then burned to a stake for being a witch. This case was tried in 1692 in Livonia, situated in an area east of the Baltic Sea, steeped in werewolf folklore. It involved an 80-year-old man named Thiess. Thiess confessed of being a werewolf, saying his nose had been broken by a man named Skestan, a witch who was dead at the time he struck Thiess. According to Thiess's testimony, Skestan and other witches were preventing the crops of the area from growing. Their purpose for doing this was to carry the grain into hell. To help the crop to continue to grow, Thiess with a band of other werewolves descended into hell to fight the witches and recover the grain. The warring of the werewolves and the witches occurred on 3 nights of the year. If the werewolves were slow in their descent, the witches would bar the gates of hell, and the crops, livestock and even the fish catch would suffer. As weapons, the werewolves carried iron bars while the witches used broom handles. Skestan broke Thiess's nose with a broom handle wrapped around a horse's tail. The judges were astounded by such testimony, for they had naturally supposed the werewolves were agents of the devil, but now they were hearing the werewolves were fighting the devil. When asked what became of the souls of the werewolves, Thiess said they went to heaven. He insisted werewolves were the hounds of God, who helped mankind by preventing the devil from carrying off the abundance of the earth. If it were not for them, all would suffer. He also said there were werewolves in Germany and Russia also fighting witches in their own hells. Thiess was determined in his confession, denying he had ever signed a pact with the devil. He refused to see the parish priest who was sent for to chastise him, saying that he was a better man than any priest. He claimed he was neither the first nor the last man to become a werewolf in order to fight witches. Finally, the judges, probably out of desperation, sentenced Thiess to 10 lashes for acts of superstitious beliefs. Jean Grenier, dubbed the Werewolf of France by historians, was around 14 years old when he announced to his village that he had stalked, killed and eaten children in the area. One witness who survived was 13-year-old Marguerite Poyer. She claimed that she had the habit of looking after her livestock in the company of Gilles. The boy swore to her numerous times that whenever he felt like it, he could shapeshift into a wolf, and that he had caught and killed some dogs, ate a part of one and drank some blood, but he did not like them as much as he liked small children and girls. He had also told her that it had been a while since he attacked a child. She had added that one day while she was looking after her livestock, some kind of wild beast attacked her, grabbed onto and tore off her skirt near her left hip. She in turn struck it on the back with a stick, noting that the beast was larger but shorter than a wolf, had rust-coloured fur and a short tail. After the blow, the beast leapt away from the girl some 10 to 12 steps, sat up on its hind legs like dogs often do, and gave her a furious look that made her run for her life. She had also noticed that the animal had a smaller head than that of a wolf. After all this, Gilles was immediately arrested. Back then, before the separation of church and state, if you committed a crime you had the right to a trial, but you'd be tried and sentenced by primarily church officials. Gilles was declared mentally unfit. The judges concluded that Gilles had been possessed by a demon resulting in lycanthropy. His sentence was to be sent to a monastery to live for the rest of his life. Gilles was even examined by the infamous Pierre de Lunc, the man who single-handedly initiated the Basque witch trials, a witch hunt that killed over 600 men and women in France, almost a century before the Chalons witch trials took place in Massachusetts. He also wrote several popular volumes of religious anti-witch guides and witch hunting books. After several years at the monastery, Pierre examined Gilles and found the boy very shy and unwilling to look anyone in the face. His eyes were deep set and restless, his teeth long and protruding, his nails black and in places worn away. His mind was completely barren. He seemed unable to comprehend the smallest things. Throughout history, many horrific crimes have been committed by many evil, troubled men and women. Some of the stories have survived through the centuries, while others have been all but forgotten and left behind. The story of the demon Tailor, also known as the Werewolf of Chalons, is one such case. In the 1500s in France, this unnamed man owned a tailor shop in the heart of Paris. According to historical records, he would lure children into his shop unsuspectingly, where he would then torture and eventually kill them. In the form of a butcher, he would dismember and dress the bodies, consuming the remains and disposing of the bones by bleaching them and hiding them in barrels. It was also reported that he would scour the woods looking for victims, purportedly in wolf's form, where he supposedly killed several dozen more victims. The total number of murders in this case is still unknown, but it was definitely a wicked case, and he definitely was a serial killer in a time when such a term might not have existed in common language yet. In December of 1598, the man was arraigned on multiple murder charges. He was convicted quickly and easily, likely because of the superstitious nature of the case. Sentenced to burning at the stake, the man never showed a single ounce of remorse or asked for forgiveness. Even as his body burned, he simply cursed to the very end. The interesting part of this case is definitely the reported werewolf element, but it's even more interesting that he was convicted with such a lack of proven evidence. Although the bones were presumed to be humans, he never confessed, and it's not clear whether the officials determined the species or if they were just superstitious, and acting on fear or assumptions. After the werewolf was executed, every single record of his trial, crimes and his very existence were destroyed. The state decided it wanted no memory of his horrendous crimes, and the things that he did. After all, for some serial killers, the fame and notoriety is what it's all about. Even in death, remembering and revisiting serial killers and their crimes is giving them exactly what they wanted. Back then, officials considered it very important to dishonor their names by eliminating them from history. The demon Tailor wasn't really all that unique. Of course, the fact that he killed as many as 50 people put him on a much higher level than other offenders. Another thing working against him is the fact that his sister, brother and 2 children were all tried the same year for murder, as supposed werewolves and witches that killed children. All of them were convicted and burned at the stake. This sister was the only one who committed any crimes, but they were all executed because of their claims of supernatural abilities, and the fear that such a claim inflicted on the general public. France was just one of the many countries in Europe that was affected by the mystical, potentially mythical creatures of the Middle Ages. So that was 5 cases of werewolves throughout history. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more countdown videos.